Reimagination. What the theme for this week is, reimagination. That is indeed the birthplace of vision and change. And that's exactly what we're going to be exploring in our next session. And it is our privilege on the stage to invite on the stage Manu.
Wonderful.
Please invite.
Well, I would like to invite Manoj Ladwa to come up on stage, the founder and executive director of India Insect Group.
And we invite a dear sister from the UK, from London, Krishna Pujara, to lead a fireside chat with Manoj Ladwa, the founder and chief executive of the India Inc. Group, who also publishes the India Global Business Magazine. It's an honor. Please give a warm round of applause. That's it. That's it. Where's the chum-chums? We're gonna have to use the chum-chums.
Good morning, Namaskar. It really gives me great pleasure to start off with the first fire chat session this morning. I'm really pleased to introduce Mr. Manoj Ladwa, a very inspiring figure from UK who does a lot of work within India and UK and all over the world. Manoj, you're welcome here. How do you feel this morning?
I'm blown over. I wasn't actually expecting any of this. I walked into the room and I saw so much energy, felt so much of a strong vibe. I think you should rename your organization rather than WEF. You should call yourself WOW. Absolutely. So thank you very much. I was a little groggy in the morning. And I've perked up a bit now. So thank you very much.
Brilliant. Thanks, Manoj. Manoj, I'll tell you, it's such an honor to be here with you, to have this opportunity to sort of get to know more about you. And I'm sure everybody who is present here would like to know a bit more about your exciting life. So tell me, you actually grew up in Birmingham in United Kingdom. What are your memories of your growing up?
That's a tough question to start off with. My parents are from the state of Gujarat, which is in Western India. And in the 50s, they emigrated, my father emigrated to Africa, to Tanzania. And I can see a number of friends in this room are from that brilliant and beautiful continent. And in the early 70s, they, like many people of Indian origin, then found their way to the UK. And having lost everything in Africa, so I grew up in a council house in inner city Birmingham, where though we came from a business background, because the family and the community had lost everything, my first memories are of a struggle. I saw my father and my mother struggling just to make ends meet. And so money was not the talk of the dinner table like most Gujaratis usually do. The earliest conversations I remember was a literal drilling by my parents that if you need to succeed in this world and in this country, you need to be educated, but you need to be better than everybody else. And so it was education, education, education was the overriding theme or motto of my early childhood. But coupled with that, and something that has remained with me for all of my life, has been that sense of instilling values, of saying that, look, life is beyond just you, beyond just our family. We've got to give something back to the community. And I remember every weekend we would go to some community function or other, and I would be asked to do some service or other. So I guess it's that sense of giving back is something that has always remained with me from a childhood. So I guess though it was a tough childhood, right from a young age, especially when I look back, it was quite an inspiring and challenging few years, or formative years of my life.
And it's quite well known within UK about the sevas that you do, and how you have developed a number of community organizations in terms of giving something back to the community. But coming back to your childhood and how you progressed within education, it's the upbringing that you had. And I think one of the most inspiring person, from what I know, has been your mother. So can you tell us a bit more about her?
She has been, if I were to describe her, I grew up in a very patriarchal household. My father was the boss. My father ruled the roost. And so she followed him. She served him. She served us. And I use that term quite decidedly. But behind the scenes, there was that constant sense of a push that, Manoj, you can be different. My life is in a particular direction, but I want you to be different. And I realized the true strength, the true resilience, and the true passion for life that my mom had. Actually, unfortunately, after my father's passing about 3 years ago. And she decided that she'd want to live on her own. She's 78 now. And my brother and I decided to gift her an iPad. And she is a sari-clad, traditional Gujarati lady, broken English. She'd never used a computer in her life. And I gave her this iPad. She took it on herself at the age of 74, 75 to go to computer classes, to learn how to use this iPad. And now she is more engaged with the world, more connected with her family, more connected with world affairs than she's ever been. It's been a real liberation. And I know some of us talk about how technology loses that sense of humanity, or the sense of human connect. In my mother's case, it's been a great liberation. And it's been something that at that age, and after having that sort of life, to have that independence is something that I feel really inspired by and really proud of.
It is very inspiring, and I'll tell you that I've seen the messages that she has actually sent out on social media. And it's such an inspiring feeling from a lady who has really been empowered, and also thanks to you and the family, which has made it really work hard. Now, Manoj, I know you have got different strands to your life. So tell me a bit more, because I'm aware that you went to the prestigious London School of Economics to study law. Could you tell us a bit more what inspired you to do that?
It was more actually out of default. I loved economics when I was at school, but my maths wasn't that great, and my my parents and my elder brother said that, look, you've got the gift of the gab. Why don't you try law? And so I slipped into studying law, and I was an absent student. I was called the Phantom of LSE by my tutors there, because I spent more time in the student union. We were setting up a student union body called the National Hindu Students Forum, which was there to empower people young students of Indian origin across the UK. And so my memories of the LSE are fond, but not for the studying, but more for the student politics, and the fact that we were trying to really give a voice to young people of Indian origin who were second generation and were, I guess, moving on from the hardships that our parents' generation faced, and to sort of start to feel really comfortable in the UK and to start looking at what could we contribute more to society. So yes, I took on law and I practiced law for many, many years, but my fondest memories are the activism and meeting other people and meeting other great friends that have remained friends for all of these years.
Great. And I am aware that you've helped a lot of people individually within your law sort of business. I know you later sort of built up your law firm, which has been very successful and very well known within India and UK. However, you gave that up some time ago to build up a media business. Can you tell us why the change in career path?
Sometimes in life it's good to do crazy things. I had a very comfortable career as a lawyer. I had my own practice, had lots of lawyers working for me, both here in India and in London, and things were good. But sometimes in life I think that if things are too good, there's something wrong. You've got to make a leap of faith and do something different. And I saw, I guess I've always been attached to this great nation. I'm born and brought up in the UK, but for me India has been that great motherland and that great sense of spiritual inspiration, but also the future. And I felt that in the West in particular, people were not really understanding India and its onward march. There were articles here and there, and I thought, well, can I do something which tells the India globalization story from the heart, from a perspective that people around the world don't really relate to or understand. And therefore I set up a website to begin with, which evolved into a magazine called India Global Business, and now we do many corporate events around the world. We publish an annual magazine called The 100 Most Influential in UK India Relations. Can I actually just talk about that? So when we launched that publication 3 years ago, a lot of my friends said, wow, this is brilliant. So many inspirational people that you've included in this list that are building bridges, that living bridge between the UK and India. But where are the women? And I said, good point. Hands up. Good point. Last year, I admit, I took that good point, but I took my eye off the ball. And out of the 100, we had 17 women in that list. I was reminded again. This year in June, we're publishing the 3rd edition. And we had an idea that can we have it 50-50? 50 inspirational women and 50 inspirational men. My team said, we should be able to do that. We should be able to get enough women. I can tell you, friends, on the 24th of June, we're going to be publishing the 3rd edition of the 100 Most Influential People in UK-India Relations. All 100 are going to be women. And guess what? The short list has 180 women on there. So the judges are going to have a tough time. So, friends, if a man really wants to do it, he can. And I have 4 amazing women in my life. My mother, my mother-in-law, my wife, and 2 fantastic daughters who all have guns to my head to make sure that I stick to my promise.
That's good, and I'm sure. Would you like to talk a bit more about the India-UK summit that's happening in June in UK?
Yeah, so again, it's not as inspiring as this in that sense, because our focus is business and our focus is on politics and so on. But what we felt was that India, as a country that is a country on the move, needed a platform, just as all of us need some platform or other to express our views, our ideas. And why have you come to India? Because you've been invited, but it's a place that's exciting. In the same way, I wanted to create a platform that's exciting for business people and politicians to come and very openly interact and debate the issues of the day. And we've got some amazing speakers and some great inspirational people that are going to be there, and we're in our 7th year now. So I'll share some details through Dr. Aurora, and if any of you guys can come along, it'll be absolutely fabulous.
Thank you, Manoj. Right, now I'm going on to another side about you. It's about your, what we've been hearing in the news all the time about Brexit. And you've written a book on it. Would you like to share a bit more on that, please?
What a mess. No, my title was Winning Partnership, UK-India Relations Beyond Brexit. Throughout our lives, we evolve, we change, we sometimes have problems. And those problems are, when they become quite acute, they call an identity crisis. So if nations could have an identity crisis, Britain's going through an identity crisis at the moment. We're a nation which ruled the world, then came through the post-war colonial times and has had a significant influence in the world. Now it's going through a post-colonial era. I think it's a great nation. It's a nation that has given a lot to the world. But apart from what some of you guys see on the television of the speaker saying order, 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 I think I look at it quite philosophically that, look, there is this churn going on, and hopefully there'll be something better that comes out of it at the end of it. Certainly, I'm worried about Britain, a country that has always been outward-looking, becoming more and more insular. The more insular a country becomes, its communities become more insular. The more insular its communities become, the more problems they create. And therefore, I'm a strong advocate of a global Britain, a global India. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the world is one family. And so I'm hopeful that this identity crisis will solve itself in the next few months, and we'll see a stronger Britain.
Thank you, Manoj. I'll take the opportunity to pose the last question for the fireside chat. And you really touched on it when you talked about becoming insular and the kind of changes that the world is going through and the ideal of Vasudeva Kutumbakam and the reality of multiculturalism and the kind of insecurities and insularities it gives rise to. So you are, posed you're there in Britain, living in the UK, you're of Indian origin. You hark back to India as the ideal, the motherland for plurality and multiculturalism, and also EU, that you are going, sort of the Brexit, the tension of the Brexit that you're going through. What are the 3 different approaches towards multiculturalism in modern times that you see in India, vis-a-vis in the UK, vis-a-vis in the EU, in the leading countries?
I did say that I was a bad student at the LSE. This sounds like one of our essay questions. Can I make a sweeping generalization, and maybe people will agree with me or violently disagree with me, and rather than looking at the UK and Europe and India and so on, can I make it an East versus West observation? What I found over years, and as a lawyer as well, when I advise main UK, European, US companies investing into India, they would go in it with a lot of formality. We need to get the contracts right. We need to get the documents right. Let's get down to the negotiation. On the Indian side, they'd look at all of that and say, just forget all of that. Let's sit down and have a meal. Let's get to know one another. The guys in the West would quite rightly say, look, time's money. We got to get this done. The guys in the East would say, well, if not in this meeting, then the next. And in India, if not in this lifetime, then maybe the next. Time's just infinity. So the stark contrast I've seen bridging the two cultures, and these are generalizations, is that we're too formal in the West, whereas in the East, the relationship matters most, and that is central to everything. It is central to a start of a relationship, and if something goes wrong, it's not the document, but it's the relationship that brings that out. Secondly, you said 3, but I'm going to leave it at 2, is that I find in the world now, it's become so complicated, people's lives have become so complicated, that we've lost that innocence, and we're not seeing and viewing things as they are. You know, this beautiful flower in front of me, I'm not viewing the flower as it is. I'm thinking about, well, where is it from? Who made it? How much did it cost? That's a bowl. How much did that bowl cost? We've become material rather than looking at the essence of that flower. And that's when I go back to my 2 daughters. And as I've seen them grow up, the one thing I've learned from them is to look at life afresh and to look at life from a point of innocence where you take things at face value. I think if more people in the world did that, more world leaders did that, the world will certainly be a nicer place. And I guess as guys, we'd understand you guys a lot better as well if we went through that particular process. So I think relationships and seeing the world through innocent eyes are 2 important things that the world is missing.
That's very, very true, Manoj. But before we end here, I'm sure all of us know about the forthcoming elections that are taking place in India.
No, no.
And it's a very well-known fact that you are one of the most close and trusted friend of Mr. Modi, the current Prime Minister. And people are always intrigued by Mr. Modi. Could you please tell us a bit more about your relation with the Prime Minister of India?
I know it's election season, so I will keep away from the politics, but it's you're all here at a very interesting, very exciting time in India's history, and Prime Minister Modi is up for re-election. And most of you will have seen him and heard about him and read about him and all sorts of different things. I'm not going to go into any of that, but if you were to ask me what's that one quality about this powerful leader, this world leader, who has great oratory, great presence, a great charisma, I'd say, friends, he is for me perhaps the best listener that I have ever met. He is somebody that is, in private, a very quiet person, unbelievable. But somebody that, if you were to go and meet him, and if you had the opportunity to meet him, he's somebody that is genuinely interested in what you have to say. And he's somebody that I have found over the years that is, I guess, been the embodiment of that innocence, that seeing things afresh, listening to people, accepting people as they are, and taking those views on board. And, you know, in my conversations with him, he'd probably speak for 2 or 3 minutes at the end, just to summarize. And so, relationships, innocence, and the third point, I've got it now, listening to people and listening to the other side. Do I pass? Thank you.
Thanks, Manoj. I know there's so much more to Mr. Ladwa, and with the shortage of time, can you just tell, finally, before I pass you on to our global chairperson, Dr. Harbin Arora, who is Manoj Ladwa? Can you summarize that about yourself?
Ooh. I think I'm a seeker. I constantly want to learn. I guess it's a habit from my errant university days that though I wasn't so focused on the education, I felt that every morning I wanted to learn something new. And I guess for me that has been the one thing that has driven me, that every morning I wake up and I want to do something different, learn something new. And if somebody says to me, you can't do this, I'll say, why not? And going back to that 17 women out of 100 and then 180 women out of 100 is just that one sense of persistence, I guess what it is. So persistence, wanting to learn, and above all, I just want to be helpful to people. That's what I enjoy. I can't always do it, but being helpful is, if I wanted to be remembered in many years' time, I guess that's what it is.
Thank you so much, Manoj, for this very engaging session. And we wish you continued blossoming in your endeavors. And may your lists of influential women grow and grow and grow. And if you need any help on that, just ask us.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you for creating the legacy that you create. We'd like to present you a small token of our affection and gratitude and present you this award, acknowledging you as a leader of the decade in media and communication. Awarded to Manoj Ladwa at the Women Economic Forum in New Delhi. Ladies and gentlemen, please offer your applause with generosity. Thank you. That was a really great, like Harbeen said, a very engaging session. And I wanted to let you know as well that we're starting the parallel sessions upstairs, 10 o'clock.